Buddhist Centre. My name is Susanna Joji. I'm part of the teaching team here on Wednesday evenings. So we've got two things going on this evening. If you are new to us this evening, anyone brand new to the centre, never been to the centre before? A few of you, particularly warm welcome to you. So if you are new to us, or you're fairly new to meditation, or you've done meditation elsewhere but not with us, then at the end of the announcement, you're going to go with Dianata here. He's going to take you round to the right, and then he's going to give you a good foundational training in the way we practice here at the London Buddhist Centre. So that's for the newcomers, round to the right. If you are one of our regulars, we're going to be in the main shrine room with the Mokshamati. And if you've been to the newcomers class a few times, and you feel like you know the format of our practices now without having someone guide you through them, then you can graduate yourself into the regulars class, which will be in the main shrine room. Then we'll come together for a cup of tea at some point in the middle, and the evening will end at about 9:30. Okay, so newcomers to the right, regulars into the main shrine room, and as you travel to your destination, if you could turn your phones off, that would be fantastic, and we can have a peaceful evening. Okay, great. I think this is us. Let's stand up, everyone. We'll salute the shrine. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo So really warm welcome to the Wednesday class. My name is Mokshamati, and well done if you're here as part of the challenge and you've made it along for your weekly class. And really nice to see, I recognise a few familiar faces from the winter retreat as well, so yeah, really welcome to you as well. So we'll be starting today, so we'll be continuing to explore this text by Sangharakshita, Mind Reactive, Mind Creative today, and we'll do that in the context of meditation practice. So we'll start with a short meditation just to kind of ground, then I'll say a little bit about the topic, and then we'll have a longer meditation in the second half. Okay. So if you want to just get set up, get comfortable, get what you need.
So let's take a few deeper breaths all the way down into the belly. And you can breathe out through the mouth if you want. That can help us to relax and arrive. Let's do a few of those. Big full breath in and a sigh out on the out breath. And as you breathe out, allowing the weight of your body to drop down into the support of the cushions, the mat. Allowing the jaw to soften. Allowing the shoulders to come away from the ears. Softening in the brow. And tuning into your body, noticing what's here. What are you bringing with you today on the cushion? Any sensations, feelings? Seeing if you can just be curious, interested. There's no right experience to be having, no wrong experience to be having. And let's spend a little bit of time focusing on the physical sensations of breathing, wherever you feel the breath most prominently. Keep softening the body, relaxing down into the support underneath you. And for the final few moments, expanding your awareness to hold the whole body sitting here. Feeling the feet, your legs. Feeling the sensations of contact where your body is making contact with the chair or the cushion. Feeling your upper body, your back, torso, your arms, your hands. Your head, your face. Feeling the background hum of aliveness in the body. And maybe even extending the awareness beyond the body, feeling the space around you, sounds, smells. Sit a little bit higher so I can see. I'm quite small. So, can I just get a show of hands who was here last week for Aditya Bandhu's? Okay, a few of you, great. I'll recap what Aditya Bandhu went into. In these Wednesdays in January, we're exploring the seminar from Sangharajta, the founder of the movement, from I think it's from 1967, quite a while ago, on mind creative, mind reactive. So I'd really recommend you to get this text from the bookshop so you can kind of have it written. They're just kind of at the front. Last week Aditya Bandhu talked about mind reactive, so I'm going to recap a little bit on that, and then today we'll mostly be focusing on mind creative, which is nicer than focusing on mind reactive. But I just wanted to start with sort of the premises of all of this, and in a way kind of the premises of Buddhism, by reading out a quote from the Dhammapada. So a lot of you will probably know this quote. Experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows, even as the cartwheel follows the hoof of the ox. Experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows like a shadow that never departs. Okay, is everyone familiar with these lines? Yeah, from the Dhammapada. Come in. Hi. So do we actually believe this to be true in our experience? There's some seats up here if you want to. Yeah, just a couple there and a couple there. Some seats up here at the front. No one wants to sit at the front. That's fine. But so maybe we know this on an intellectual level, but do we actually believe that it's true, that experiences are preceded by mind, led by mind, and produced by mind? Yeah? I don't think I believe it, like quite a lot of the time, on one level. I think I walk around just kind of thinking that things going to happen to me. That's probably my state of mind quite a lot of the time, unfortunately, as an ordained Buddhist. But But I think that's kind of true of because in a way this is kind of we're thinking about the reactive mind here. I think this is sort of true of many of us. Like we might know it in theory, but the way that we are in the world, the way that we live our lives, I don't know if this is actually so easy to fully live by. And I was thinking maybe we could Yeah, like if you turn to just the person sitting next to you, before I say more, just maybe reflect a little bit on that. Like if you kind of just think about your day or you think about your week, in what ways do you feel like your experience was preceded by mind, led by mind, or produced by mind? And were there moments where it felt like, oh, things just kind of happened to you? Yeah, just have a moment to discuss that. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we could hear from like a couple of people. Yeah, what came up? Yeah.
Because I have such a strong reaction to like being angry in the morning.
Uh-huh.
I know that it's in my mind, right? And so this is how I relate to this text. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm also like a creature of habit, so I tend to do like I just go downstairs to get a croissant in the same place, served by the same man.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I want to kill him. And sometimes I'm able to just give him the loveliest smile.
Yeah.
You know, the same process, I will have a different reaction to. And so I must conclude that it has to do with me. You know, people cutting me off on the tube or whatever, sometimes I'm like, oh, well, they're busy, they need to catch it clear, they're dressed like this, and sometimes I want to hurt them. And again, it's not the person.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not. So it must be me.
Very good, yeah. You're onto something there. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Any other reflections, people? Yeah, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I kind of like, I very much think of it when it comes to like mental states and stuff like that. And I think if I'm kind of constantly walking around, or sort of like, especially kind of like unchecked negative mental states, like if I'm feeling really pissed off and angry that day, I'm just gonna keep on rolling down that hill more and more and more and more, and all my experiences are gonna be tinged with that. As in, if I'm putting more effort because I spend a lot more time kind of cultivating these positive, like a bit more positivity in my life, I almost feel kind of like, again, like that sort of follows as a pattern throughout the rest of the day and kind of throughout the rest of my experience.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, that actually negative states of mind can be also cumulative, like one reactive state will lead to another reactive state, etc., etc. So yeah, and that's kind of when we're looking at the cartwheel that follows the hoof, it's kind of that, it's that kind of heaviness that can kind of follow versus the lightness of a shadow. Yeah. Yes, Joseph.
I find it interesting, speaking both my partner and the two people as well,
Yeah.
hearing that people only seem to be aware of that it's in their mind when they're interacting with other people. So there's feelings of anger or sadness because someone else has done this to me.
Yes.
Which is itself almost a kind of abstraction. Like, you don't actually see the hostile relationship between the other person. They're very rarely threatening you with a pike.
Yeah.
And it's odd that almost we don't seem to perceive that mind element in our day-to-day walking down the street of, oh, why do I believe that's a ladder? Because my mind has interpreted it as a ladder.
Yeah. So we go around interpreting things very automatically. That's kind of what you're saying, and in a way, what we're seeing is a bit of a mirage, but we think it's reality. And like we do this with people too, you know. So, yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because you were giving the example of like getting annoyed at someone, you know, and when we practice, we can kind of know that, okay, actually, I've meditated this morning and I felt into my experience and I felt that I was in a grumpy mood, so I know that about myself, and I can go into my life kind of being a bit cautious, right? But my first gut reaction will still be to be annoyed at the person, right? Will still be to be like, oh. Yeah, why are they doing that thing again, or you know, whatever. So I think it's just important to acknowledge that it's not because we're bad. This is the conditioned mind. You know, the conditioned mind is the reactive mind, in a way, and most of us will be in the reactive mind kind of most of the time. So I want to backtrack a little bit. So Sangharakshita in this talk, he sort of starts by talking about two very different kinds of minds. So he talks about the absolute mind and he talks about the relative mind. So the absolute mind is effectively enlightened consciousness. So the absolute mind is where you kind of transcend a sort of self and other, subject-object divide. It becomes quite difficult to talk about because it's sort of transcending concepts. But basically this is the kind of mind that the Buddha would dwell in. And this is what we're working towards, is kind of we're aiming to ultimately to sort of, transcend our kind of ordinary kind of reactive mind. But then in order to do that, so we also, the other type of mind is the mind that we live with day to day. That's the relative mind. And Sangharakshita talks about the relative mind as kind of two categories. I mean, it's still the same mind. It's the mind that we know, but there's two categories, which is either it's kind of reactive, or we can think of it as kind of autopilot, or kind of unaware, or we have creative mind, and we can think of that mind as kind of more awake, aware. So sort of when we start practicing kind of what you were saying of like, well, now I know this is my mind, I know these are my moods, and I know that I go and I put it on other people. That's kind of sort of when we wake up to that, then we can start to kind of know what we're bringing in the ways in which we are interpreting the world around us. And so if we want to move towards the absolute mind, the step towards that is kind of inhabiting a creative mind more and more, and that's effectively what we're trying to do in meditation. We're trying to more and more kind of inhabit this kind of more creative mind. I'm going to say a little bit more actually about both of these. So last week Aditya Bandhu talked about the reactive mind in particular, and we know the reactive mind quite well. So I think the key things to remember about the reactive mind is, it sort of doesn't even, it's not really us deciding and choosing things. It sort of acts through us in a way. So Sangharakshita talks about it a bit like a penny slot machine, and you can tell how old this talk is, where you actually would put a penny in a machine and you would have something come out of it, like a bag of treats or something like that. So it's a little bit like that, like some input comes in from the world, and it comes in, and then we just react automatically. We react, and the way that we automatically react is through kind of liking it or not liking it. So if we like it, we want more of it. If we don't like it, then we want less of it. We push it away. This is just what the mind does at autopilot, basically. So in this mindset, we're kind of we're sort of at mercy. We're sort of at mercy to whatever's going on around us, whatever the external situations is. So if there's a situation we don't like very much, if there's like, our neighbours playing loud music that we're not enjoying, we'll be in negative mental states because we're at mercy to that input, because we don't like that input. So this is the mind that we inhabit most of the time. And it works kind of, this is why advertising works so well, actually, because we inhabit this mind. So we see something and we want it. Something's presented to us in a very alluring way, and subliminal messages, and we see that, I want that gadget's gonna kind of sort me out. So this is happening at levels that kind of we're not actually even aware of in our day-to-day. So the way that it responds to stimuli is mechanical, it's repetitive, habitual. I think you were mentioning a bit about your routine as well. Like we all have this, and that can be useful sometimes to have a routine, but it's kind of when we're churning out the same kind of response again and again. And this is, well, it comes from whatever the input is, whatever our senses are picking up on, whether we find this pleasant or unpleasant. But partly it comes from the conditioning that we carry as well. So Joseph, you talked a bit about kind of interpretation. So it's also, we interpret reality based on the conditions that we have. I'm going to go with the music example. So maybe I grew up listening to lots of music and kind of now at home with lots of noise, and so I'm kind of okay with that, or maybe even enjoy that. It was quite interesting actually, because I lived in a big Buddhist community down the road with 11 other women, and we had these neighbours that would kind of sometimes have parties, and I actually didn't mind. I quite liked the music they played, but some people would get very, very upset and triggered, So we have our own conditioning in relation to the input. That's quite a simplistic example. There's, our conditioning can get us into much more trouble than kind of whether we like music or not, but so we have our own patterning that we carry around that's going to determine kind of how we react. So some input comes in, we have our conditioning, we're going to interpret it in the way that we interpret it, and then we have a very habitual response that comes out, and that response is going to be probably kind of craving or aversion, basically. Yeah, everyone with me so far? It's a reactive mind, very familiar. And I think the important thing is that it's basically this thing of unawareness. The important thing here is that the reactive mind is asleep I think our spiritual lives truly begin when we recognize the extent to which we are asleep a lot of the time, the extent to which we are unaware quite a lot of the time. It can be quite humbling. But yeah, that's basically the starting point, to just sort of recognize, like, a lot of the time we're not actually the masters of our own fate. Like, we are effectively just acting out our patterns, we're acting out our conditioning, you know. We think that there's like a lot of really interesting psychological research on this. We think that we choose our partners. We're like, I've gone on lots of dating apps and I've chosen really carefully, and I've thought, oh, you know, I really want someone who's like this and like this and like this. We don't actually. We're more likely to go for someone that reminds us of something, you know, our early conditioning, our parents, you know. And we try really hard. Now, I'm not going to go out with someone who's like my dad, but you end up sort of... So there's... here we go again. You know, or like your mum or whatever, like, or something about the dynamic between your parents, or, you know, this. So, yeah, so we think we choose things, but we don't actually. We don't choose things, really. We're kind of... we make decisions based on our conditioning. We're walking around kind of in a bit of a trance and acting things out effectively. So what the Buddha is kind of saying is, like, we can wake up from that. And I mean, I'm sure most of you know this already, but Buddha is what it literally means is the awakened one. So the Buddha has woken up. So we can wake up through awareness. We can become aware of the reactive mind. We can become aware of our conditioning, we can become aware of our patterns and our habits, and then at those moments we can make different choices. And that's when we kind of move into the more creative mind, yeah? Yes. I'm thinking about whether to talk about the creative mind now or to do it in the second half. Yeah. Okay, I'll introduce it now. So the creative mind is the opposite of the reactive mind. And when we're inhabiting the creative mind, we are making choices. We're responding rather than reacting. So the penny goes into the slot machine. I don't know why I like this example. It's very out of date, but and we're actually choosing what comes out. We're not. It's not just something automatically popping out at us. We're making a choice. We can't control our thoughts. We can't control our emotional responses, but we can decide what we do with them. We can decide whether we let them kind of act out, or whether we we choose to respond in a different way. So the creative mind is responsive. The creative mind is optimistic. And I really like this because I think optimism, it kind of gets a bit of a bad rep, like it's a bit unrealistic or something. It's not optimistic in a superficial way, like, oh, everything's fine all the time. It's optimistic in the sense that it's a positive state of mind, and it's optimistic in the sense that like no matter what happens to us in life, even if difficult things happen, it's possible to dwell in positive states of mind. So the Buddha, for example, I mean, this is, there's no expectation that we should be able to do this, but could have found himself did find himself in very difficult conditions, you know. He was said to be in a lot of pain, you know, and when he was dying, he was poisoned, and, well, he wasn't poisoned, he chose to eat something that was poisonous and had dysentery, and anyway, he was in a lot of pain, but he was in incredibly open, beautiful, loving mental states. So if we can, it's possible to have a mind that's independent of the external conditions. we can cultivate that. We can work on our minds to kind of become increasingly positive, regardless of kind of what's happening to us. And I want to really be really careful here, because it's not that we sort of bypass and say, oh, actually I'm feeling very upset about this, but it's fine. I'm just going to be positive. It's not that. It's not like, but it comes from seeing the nature of reality. Ultimately, it comes from wisdom. It comes from kind of seeing that life contains suffering, the first noble truth. Life has dukkha in it, and that we don't react to dukkha in a way that makes it worse. We respond to it. So, try and give an example. I was ordained this year, last year now, because it's a new year. Last year. And I actually, I wanted to be ordained earlier. I wanted to be ordained the year before. It's actually, when you go for ordination training, it's not up to you. You kind of ask for ordination, then you have a preceptor and you have people around you that decide when they think you're ready. I thought I was ready, and I really wanted to go, but I wasn't ready, according to my preceptor. And I remember sort of walking around and talking to my friend and feeling that it was unfair and da-da-da-da-da-da. And he kind of just stopped me and said, as Buddhists, what we're effectively committing to doing is seeing difficulty as opportunity. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not ready. So, and it actually really helped, because, rather than kind of putting myself in this victim role of, why aren't people seeing these things, or it's like, it kind of, none of it really matters. What matters is how am I using this? What am I doing with this in my mind? Am I using this as an opportunity to grow? Or am I just going into the reactive mind, kind of the habitual tendencies of, this is unpleasant, I didn't get what I wanted to go on the ordination retreat, I didn't get it, complaining, looking for people to blame? Or am I kind of thinking, okay, this wasn't what I wanted, but what can I take from this? How can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? It's a very different quality of mind that opens up. And I think this is also really relevant to our meditation practice, because often what we find when we close our eyes and we sit with our minds in meditation is that it's not what we want it to be. We probably have hopes. We want to have like a still mind, we want to have a calm mind, and probably a lot of us are coming to meditate because we have an idea of what we want our minds to be like. And then we sit in meditation, we close our eyes, and guess what? It's not like that. And sometimes it's really not like that. It's like the opposite of what we want it to be. But if we can approach our meditation in the creative way, then what we're doing is we're not reacting to our minds with aversion. We're not reacting to our minds with craving. I mean, sometimes it can be a bit pleasant and we can kind of crave that or grasp at that as well. Or we can have certain pleasant thoughts or fantasies and we can kind of grasp at those. So we're not reacting to our mind in either of those ways. But whatever's coming up, we're using it as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity for insight, an opportunity to get to know our minds better, an opportunity to just be with what is effectively without pushing and pulling. That's how we cultivate more of a creative mind in meditation. So I want to do a bit more on this kind of in the second half, but I thought now let's take sort of 15 minutes or so until the break. And I'm going to ask us to do the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing. So we're just focusing loosely on the breath and meditation. And the main focus is to practice seeing if you can respond creatively to whatever is coming up. So responding creatively means noticing the reactivity and not reacting to that, yeah? Okay? So... So don't be too alarmed if what you found was mostly mind reactive in those 10 minutes. It's okay. We'll have a tea break now, and then we're gonna, in the second half, we'll explore the creative mind in a bit more depth, and we'll look at some ways that you can access that in meditation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. So we're going to explore the creative mind a little bit more. But first, I just thought I would check in. So in the last 10 minutes, we did a little meditation where I asked you to see if you could notice your any reactivity in the mind and try and sort of respond to that in a creative way. How was that? Did that input help in any way? Did you respond differently to what was going on in your mind? It's normal. Or anyone want to share?
I tried to, so I caught it, and then I was like, oh, interesting, and then I found myself a few minutes later just thinking about how the thinking was interesting. So maybe I failed a little bit, and then that probably the chain broke at that point when I found out that I was thinking about the thinking, that I kind of snapped back. So
Yeah, but that's what we do. That's what the mind does. It's like, yeah. It's not a bad thing, so I think the word interesting is excellent. That's a very good creative mind word, that we're interested in our experience. Okay, this is interesting. And then, it sounds like, we feel a bit happy that, I responded slightly differently. And then all of a sudden, yay. And then we've kind of slightly grasped that. But that's just what the mind does. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, Pete.
Yeah, I was finding, I was noticing just thoughts that were kind of either coming from like fear or craving, like quite quickly, and some are like, I don't know, some sort of what do you call it, like imaginations, like just like fantasy or whatever, where it's like a mixture of the two. I was kind of like, what is this? And is this craving? It's kind of anxious. It's like, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just a mixture of like craving and aversion together.
Yeah.
That was quite interesting to sort of feel that. And then I suppose behind that there's like a view that like, if I got one of these things that it would be better, and actually knowing that that's not true as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Sounds like you could see underneath those kind of pulls of craving and aversion there. Yeah. Maybe one more final person. Yeah. I don't know. What's your name? Clarice. Yeah.
I too got distracted. There was one moment that I quite enjoyed, which was when thinking about the movement of the whole breath. I feel like internally I sense this kind of shape, which is like a circle on its side, like kind of really like that. And then I was like, okay, creative, and then I was like, why am I limiting it to this circle? Moving like that. And I felt like a certain softness in my mind where, I wasn't necessarily having to, kind of let go of that shape.
Interesting. Yeah.
More just with the feeling of it.
Great. Yeah. That's another really good point. Like, the way that we sometimes control the role of control in meditation in lots of different ways, or the role of habit in meditation. The reactive mind just wants to get in everywhere. So we have it's really there's like really subtle levels at which I've meditated in this way for a long time, and so this is how I meditate. But actually letting go and opening up to something different. You can have a slightly different experience. The way to know when you're in creative mind is you can kind of feel it. You can feel it. So as you were sort of alluding to that there's a kind of opening up that happens. Can people relate to this? And it's sort of, it happens on like an emotional level, but I also think it sort of happens on a physical level. There's a kind of opening up and probably a relaxation of some holding or tension in the body. So that's kind of a characteristic. I think the key word for me with the creative mind is freedom, actually. There's a sense of freedom when we're in the creative mind, because the reactive mind is it's very tied up in conditions, external conditions. It's reacting to conditions. The creative mind is kind of can function independently of conditions. There's a sense of freedom, and ultimately the creative mind is kind of what can take us to the ultimate freedom of freeing us from all conditioning. Does that make sense? So we're kind of the creative mind. Yeah, if we've done something a bit counter-habitual, for example, in a certain sort of way, we're freeing ourselves from that conditioning in that very moment. That's like a mini sense of loosening up. So we can kind of feel that on like a psychophysical level. Does that make sense? That resonate? Yeah. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about the creative mind, and then we're going to do a little exercise and we're going to meditate. I've highlighted two things. So one is happiness comes from the creative mind. That's where happiness comes from. And much of our experience will be kind of pursuing happiness from conditioned existence. But actually happiness comes from when we are able to break free of conditioning, and when we're able to find happiness and stillness in our minds regardless of kind of what's going on. Yeah, do people agree with that? Does that feel kind of true? Yeah.
I think there's lots of different types of happiness. Like sometimes it can just be dopamine.
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. So if we're talking about yeah. Of course. Yeah. No, so there's not to say. I think what we're getting to is more like happiness with a capital H, like a sort of lasting happiness. Because of course you're right. Like we can feel happy when we get something we want, or things go our way, or we've achieved something. Like of course that's not to be undermined or underestimated, but kind of ultimately, if we want kind of reliable happiness, that's where it will come from. Yeah, Pete.
With this thing of like pure mind
Mm-hmm.
versus creative mind,
Mm-hmm.
for me, like pure sort of sounds like perfect, you know.
Yeah.
When obviously I know I'm not perfect, so
Mm.
I'm never going to get a pure mind.
Mm.
But then creative is something that's more like attainable somehow,
Mm-hmm.
or like a journey towards a pure mind. Or
Yeah.
something. Is that what is?
I think they're kind of the same in a sense, because creative in the ultimate sense is kind of the same as the absolute mind, the mind of the Buddha, so that it can go all the way to enlightenment, the creative mind. And the pure is the same, you know, in a sense, like the ultimate pure mind would be the kind of mind of the Buddha, but they're different kind of words of getting at the same thing. I suppose pure in that sense, we're thinking maybe more about ethics, which is also... ethics is another way of cultivating the creative mind. They're kind of different fingers pointing at the same thing. But yeah, pure has a particular connotation, doesn't it? It feels like, it has to be kind of spotless or stainless, or, you know, whereas creative is more like a process. The mind is a process. And every moment we're given an opportunity to make a choice. Like, do we do the habitual thing? Do we do the non-habitual thing? So it can be kind of a nicer, more... It's a kind of relatable model, I think. So happiness, lasting happiness, will come from within, from responding creatively to our experience effectively. And then the second thing that I underlined is, and this is probably my favorite line in this kind of little seminar, is the creative mind will love where there is no reason to love. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. So what does that mean? What does that mean to love where there's no reason to love? And how does that relate to happiness? How does that relate to happiness?
When we don't get something back from loving?
Yeah. So it's not self-involved, it's not self-interested, we're not doing something to get something back, yeah.
Or when we don't get something back, we don't react?
Yeah, when we don't get something back, we don't react. Yeah. Any other thoughts? What does that mean?
Yes, it's sort of like unconditional love is probably the first thing that kind of comes
Yeah.
to my mind. So it's that
Yeah.
idea of like, yes, kind of similar to what you were saying, like love that you give out and not expecting anything to return, but kind of everything around
Yeah. Yeah, unconditional love for everything around us. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so in a sense, no matter what comes our way, we can respond with love. We can respond in a loving way.
Yeah, and with compassion.
With compassion. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I think when you're in the creative mind, you're tapped into sort of an infinite source.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about transactional interactions with people.
Mm-hmm.
And creatively, you're not thinking in a linear way.
Yeah.
You're sort of thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
But you can't force it, right? This is I think where I run a bit of ground is trying to make a creative mindset where really it has to be sort of you have to forget what you were doing or almost discover it as opposed to
you can't kind of bring it on by sheer willpower, but you can make choices. So this is where we have our control here. It's kind of conditioning, and if we're thinking about kind of what the reactive mind is effectively is many different choices that are acting themselves out. But if we can make different choices, they will act themselves out in a different way. So I was on retreat last week. I was on my post-ordination retreat, and I was doing a lot of metta practice and a lot of another kind of practice that we get given at ordination, where we visualize a Buddha, Bodhisattva figure. And I wasn't particularly thinking about my mum, but out of nowhere, I just felt loads of love for her, like so much gratitude and so much love. And I haven't had a very straightforward relationship with my mum, and I've worked quite hard at it over the years. But it was just such a natural kind of outpouring, and I couldn't have willed that to happen. It just happened. And it wasn't kind of something that I was necessarily working actively to cultivate. So it is kind of, but we can kind of set up the conditions for that. And for me, what I had been doing was a lot of metta practice, and I was in positive conditions, with other people practicing and in retreat conditions. It's a good point. We can kind of force it, but the choices that we make along the way are really important. So with this kind of thing of loving where there's no reason to love, we can choose love. We can choose to love, and if we keep choosing love in different situations, and that includes love for ourselves as well. If we keep choosing that, then we will build up a momentum, and we're setting up the conditions for the creative mind. The creative mind is a positive mind. With Buddhism, there's lots of teachings, and a lot of these teachings are kind of effectively pointing at the same thing, but it's kind of what we're doing when we're doing the Metta Bhavana. We're training our minds to respond in more loving, kind of more positive ways, less what you were saying, self-referential ways. So we can make those choices in small ways and see kind of what effect that has on us. And that's a free mind, actually, because if we can choose to respond with love, then happiness follows like a shadow that never departs. Like and if we're in more loving mental states, we'll be more likely to respond creatively to difficult situations. I cycle a lot in London, and like lots of people don't like cyclists very much, so you get a fair amount of abuse sometimes. But I remember when I came off my ordination retreat, I was just in such positive mental states, and I was like cycling along, and then someone was complaining about something, and I was just like, oh, he seems like he's having a bad day, poor him, so it does have an effect, like making these small choices day in and day out. You might find yourself in a situation and be like, hang on, like a few years ago I would have responded by lots of angry rumination, and now I've responded by feeling genuine compassion. So these things do happen. We do have choice, we do have control. Yeah. So I thought I would get into like kind of some experiential exploring the creative mind. So maybe have a think about a time when you chose to love where there was no reason to love. Whether maybe someone was being a bit rude to you, but you decided to be friendly back. Or you decided to let someone go ahead of you on the tube even though you didn't know them. It doesn't have to be like a big heroic experience. It can just be a moment where you behaved generously. You chose to kind of be the more loving one in a situation. Bring that situation to mind, and then go into pairs again and just share that with someone, because when we say things out loud and we hear other people, that also kind of builds, and then we're going to take that into a meditation practice. So have a little think, and then I'll ring a bell, and then you can go into pairs. Yeah. Hopefully you all have something. Okay, so hopefully most of you got an opportunity to share. Yeah, I got the sense of a sort of uplifted mood in the Shriners. That's nice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a Metta Bhavana practice, and we'll have like a longer sit, so sort of about 25 minutes. And we're going to start with this experience. We'll start sort of almost do like a stage 0, where you're bringing that experience to mind of where you've loved, where there was no reason to love, or you've been kind of the bigger person, or if you heard someone else shared a story that touched you, you could bring that in as well. And then when we do the Metta Bhavana practice, we're going to bring in this kind of focus of responding. If we think about the creative mind as also a loving mind, like it's responding lovingly to our experience, responding lovingly to whatever is happening, is being creative. So so sort of similar to what we did in the first half. So if you find yourself getting distracted, kind of noticing that, finding a loving way of relating to yourself around the distraction and coming back to the practice. And you can think of the whole practice in a way as loving where there's no reason to love. So when you think about the neutral person, what are some ways that we can appreciate someone that we've never even met, someone that we don't even know? When we think about the difficult person, what are some ways that we can maybe be the bigger person in a situation and open up to them in a way? Can we imagine that? What would that look like? How does that feel in our bodies? I had a really nice experience today, actually. I was a bit upset with my brother for something, and I hadn't been in touch with him for a while. And I was kind of waiting for him to get in touch with me, because when you feel a bit upset by someone, you're like, well, it's their turn, they should get in touch. So I was kind of in that state, and I kind of knew, I was like, well, you're ordained, you need to be the bigger person. So so I was like, okay, I'll reach out. So and I did, and I brought in some vulnerability. I said to him, okay, look, I'm sorry I haven't been in touch. I was quite hurt by kind of how we left things. I did get a really nice message back. But even the fact of sharing that, of saying, oh, hey, look, I'm sorry I wasn't in touch. I've been a bit hurt. Like that had such a freeing, it was such a different experience to that kind of, oh, well, it's your turn to contact me. you hurt me, you contact me now. It has such a different effect in my organism. So, with the difficult person, what would that look like to kind of, can we reach out an olive branch somehow in some way in our minds? And then in the final stage, what would it be like to live like that in the world, to just have that as our internal mantra, to love where there's no reason to love? How would that feel? So we'll do a Metta Bhavana with the creative mind, and then what I'll do at the end is I'm going to start a mantra. And then if you would like during that mantra, just kind of follow my lead. You can make some offerings if you want, no pressure. And oh, actually, there's not very many candles. I should have thought about this before. I'll get some candles out. And so you can make offerings. But get yourself set up for meditation whilst I do that. Is there someone sitting here or not? Oh, thank you. Thanks for the last minute. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's set up for meditation, and just closing your eyes. Thank you very much, Jayada and Kieran, for accommodating my last minute ideas. Okay. So before we go into the 5-stage practice, just bringing to mind the moment that you just shared with your partner or in your little groups. Or if you were moved by something you heard, you can bring that to mind as well. And just dropping into your body, noticing how that feels to bring that to mind. Is there an opening, a sense of freedom? And if there's this sense of openness, if you have a positive feeling that comes with bringing that to mind, seeing if you can allow that to spread, seeing if you can allow yourself to really enjoy that experience. Really let it in. Metta Bhavana, first stage. Shakyamuni Swaha. Oh, Muni, Muni, Mahamuni, 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 Shakyamuni Swaha. Shakyamuni Swaha. Om Mani Mani Mahamuni 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 Shakyamuni Swaha. Thank you, everyone. So we'll keep in silence until we're in the cloakroom in the reception area. And if you could please put away your mats and cushions before you go. Thank you.